Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to go over a lot of the basics for brand new players to the Hunt Showdown. I will chapter everything so you can jump to specific sections, as it'll end up being fairly long. Now, simply put, I can't cover every intricate detail about the Hunt Showdown in one video. So we'll do a general overview of the game here, and then perhaps do some more detailed videos on specific topics later, such as individual weapons or weapon types, and individual traits, etc. Now, this video is really intended for brand new players who have no experience with the game, or perhaps someone who's interested in the game and wants to know more about it. Obviously, if there are any questions that you have which I haven't covered in the video, feel free to ask them down below. I will try and answer them if I can in the comments, and it's potentially something that can also be slipped into a future video. Now, why Hunt Showdown, I hear you ask? Well, it's a game I personally really enjoy. It's also one that can be really intimidating to get into for the first time, but I want to assure everybody here and now, you don't have to be an expert in the game to enjoy it, and you don't have to be a total crackshot or an amazing FPS player in general to succeed. Okay, it helps in some ways, but the game's MMR or matchmaking rating system does a reasonable job at keeping you with people of a similar level. Hunt Showdown is also a game that has gone from strength to strength with an ever-expanding player base. Since its release, it's had fairly regular updates, new things added, as well as various events every few months. So what are we going to cover in this video? Well, we're going to cover the tutorials and the other training options. We're going to cover sound because it's really important in the game. We're going to cover the game modes. We're going to cover ranks and progression. We're going to cover the hunters and the recruitment, the currency types in the game, traits, a brief overview, equipment, which covers weapons and items, and then finally a quick rundown of the mobs, though I won't cover the individual bosses or bounty targets in this video. But let's get down to business. First up, we can't really have a getting started video without talking about the tutorial. Earlier this year, they released an entirely new tutorial, and the whole first part is now scripted and has a friendly NPC along telling you what to do, with a rather familiar voice.
But running for too long will drain you. Stop sprinting at times to catch your breath.
Yes, that is indeed Geralt from The Witcher. After doing the initial part of the tutorial, you can continue on and do the advanced part, where you go on to fight the spider boss, along with getting to see some of the other NPC or mob enemies, which will spawn in the main game. It is worth doing for a few reasons. Firstly, it's a reasonable introduction to the game and its main mode and mechanics, along with letting you get a taste of some of the bounty bosses. You will also be gifted the tier 1 hunter you've been playing as at the end, so that you can take that into the main games with all the experience and weapons that you already have. I will explain about tiers of hunters in the later section covering recruitment. Now, following the tutorial, some people like to hit the trials. These are basically a series of challenge modes spread across the 3 maps with various objectives. Each of these objectives has different difficulty milestones, and you get a number of stars based on how high you get. The stars then translate into rewards such as money and items. Now, they're not my favourite part of the game, but some people find them very helpful for setting their sensitivities, especially when it comes to practicing against moving targets in some of the aiming ones. And finally, in this section, I want to talk about the shooting range. This was a recent addition to the game, and it's definitely worth a mention here. It's set in the fort from one of the maps, and it allows you to test out weapons. All the weapons in the game, various items as well, and also some traits that relate to particular weapons, on various stationary dummy targets. Or, if you load in with friends, you can choose to play against them in a versus mode and test things against each other, or indeed have your own private shooting match and see who really is the best shot. Good news, especially for me, is that you have unlimited respawns. It is really a fantastic place for testing out various different weapons and seeing how much damage they do, as you do get a readout of the damage when you shoot the dummies. I've actually found it a really good place for testing damage versus range as well, because there is a damage drop-off the further you get away from your targets. But hey, that's not the basics, that's getting into the more advanced stuff, so let's move on. I would like to note at this point that the only parts of the game which are single player are the parts we've already discussed, the tutorial, the trials, and the shooting range if you load in solo. The other two game modes, which we'll discuss shortly, are multiplayer only. Now, before we move on to the game modes, I want to talk about sound, and it's really hard to know where to slip it in, but I'm going to stick it here before we talk about those because it's such an important aspect of the game. Hunt Showdown has exceptional sound engineering. I mean exceptional. It probably has the best sound ever in an FPS that I've played. It is genuinely really impressive. With that in mind, it is worth taking some time to get your volume levels right, without deafening yourself. I know, for example, that my sound is a little bit higher than some of my friends that I play with because I can generally hear people crouch walking near me and they can't. I think in my head, all other things being quiet, I want to be able to hear people crouch walking near me within about 10 meters. But everyone will have a different preference on this based on the volume of other sounds in the game as well. However, just as examples, every surface in the game has a different sound, as does every weapon, item and NPC or mob in the game. It will take a while to learn them all and the types of sound that they make, so don't be discouraged early on. This is something that just comes to you over time and you will gradually be able to distinguish, oh, that's a shotgun. Oh, that's a pistol. Oh, that's a rifle. And the sound is so good in this game. Genuinely, one day you will suddenly just go, oh, that was a Romero shotgun. Oh, that was a Nagant pistol. Yes, the sound is genuinely that good. You can distinguish individual gun types from their shot sound. And no, obviously, don't expect to do that anytime within the first month of playing, but it's something to look forward to in the future. Just as you can also use this to judge how far away someone is when firing a weapon, or if they were firing inside or outside a building, the same with explosives. Incidentally, when viewing weapons on the menu, you can actually test this out. Now, sound in the Hunt Showdown doesn't stop at footsteps and gunshots. It also comes down to sound traps. This can range from something on the ground like glass, cans or a dry branch, something hanging such as chains, or indeed an active sound trap such as a horse, crows or ducks. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the chicken coops and the dog cages, which also make a lot of noise. That said, in complete fairness, all mobs in the game kind of act as sound traps because they will make a specific sound when they engage you. Not to mention, you will make a noise when you engage them. And yes, I will hear you stabbing a grunt zombie from the other side of the compound. The truth is, if you're being fairly stealthy, you'll want to avoid these sound traps where possible and kill things like horses silently from range with either a silenced pistol, a bow or crossbow, or some kind of thrown melee weapon. Early on, when you're just learning to play, if you are struggling with the animal-based sound traps, you can go down the route of getting the Beast Face trait. This reduces the range at which they can see you, / you can set them off. A special note about crows and ducks is that they also have a visual giveaway. They will fly away from you, so whichever direction you approach from, they will fly in the opposite direction, potentially giving away where you're running to. There's potential there to use that to your advantage, but we'll talk about that in a different video. One thing I will mention that I've noticed, but I'm not 100% sure it is true, is that your sounds that you make to yourself are a lot quieter than they are to the enemy. So just something to bear in mind. One last thing I'd like to talk about before we move on to the game modes are barrels. They're kind of brushed over in the tutorial, but I think they're quite important, especially when you're not expecting them. So barrels come in 3 varieties. Red are explosive, yellow are fire but still explode, just not doing as much explosive damage, and green are poison / bees. The green barrels explode when you shoot them once. However, the red and yellow barrels, well, these can be shot once with a normal bullet to set them on fire, and then they explode after a few seconds. Hitting them with a second bullet will blow them up immediately, and incendiary rounds will make them explode instantly on impact of the first shot. You will also see people putting alert trip mines next to them, as running in and setting these off will also make the barrel explode. So when you're in a fight, just be aware of your surroundings and avoid standing next to a red barrel in particular. Hunt Showdown has 2 game modes, both are PvPvE. The first is how it was originally designed, Bounty Hunt mode. This is the extraction shooter mode where you and your team are dropped into one of 3 maps and must find clues to hunt for the bounty target or targets. Once killed, you can banish these bosses, which takes a couple of minutes, and then gain a bounty token. You must then extract from the map with that token. If you have done the advanced tutorial, it is very similar, other than there are also players trying to kill you. You can play this mode solo or in teams of 2 or 3. You can also choose between playing in games with duos or trios. Some people, for example, like to play solo versus trios. A maximum of 12 players can spawn on any one map. So, for example, you could have 6 duos or a mixture of duos and solos, and then in trios you would have a maximum of 4 teams of 3 or a mixture of anything else therein. In bounty hunt mode, there can be 1 or 2 boss targets, or bounty targets if you prefer to call them that. These main targets offer 2 bounty tokens. You get additional reward for extracting with these tokens. On the occasions there is only a single bounty target, there is a chance that Rotjaw will also spawn. She was added in the current or recent event, depending on when you watch this video. Unlike other bounty targets, she spawns out in the open and vanishes faster as a result. She also only provides a single bounty token. Finding her is also a little bit different to the other bosses. In their case, you will find 3 clues to narrow down the compound on the map where they reside. For her, you will find a Rotjaw trace, and it will point you in the direction of her spawn, but not exactly where it is. I will note that when you are just starting out in the game, playing solo in this mode is quite difficult, because although you will potentially meet other solos, you will also come up against at least duos, or indeed trios if you're crazy enough to select that. The good news is, as a solo, the MMR system will give you some benefit and put you with slightly lower level teams, so you stand a chance against them. The last thing I want to mention about Bounty Hunt in this video is Dark Sight. If you manage to kill and banish a bounty target and then gain the bounty token, you will gain 5 seconds of Dark Sight. This will highlight enemy players who are within 150 meters of you in bright orange. You do not have to use all 5 seconds at once, and the general trick is to spin quickly and use just 1 second to look all around you. To gain additional seconds, you can either loot enemy players, or if there is a second boss on the map, you can use a clue. Each will give you an additional second of Dark Sight, up to a maximum of 5, unless you are a solo player. If you are a solo player and you have the trait Magpie, then Dark Sight is actually doubled, so you get 10 seconds rather than 5. Alright, let's move on to the second game mode, Sole Survivor, formerly called Quick Play. This is a solo only game mode and sort of a cross between King of the Hill and Battle Royale. Again, there will be a maximum of 12 players in the game. Unlike Bounty Hunt, you don't have to take in your own hunter or spend any money on items and weapons. Here you will pick the hunter from a list and then choose a type of weapon to start with. Random obviously gives you a random weapon from any of the other selections. Medium range generally gives you a pistol or possibly a hand crossbow. Short range will usually be a shotgun, but can include a pistol with an underbarrel shotgun. Melee is exactly what it sounds like, some kind of larger melee weapon, such as a machete, and you'll also start with a secondary melee item / weapon, such as a knife or knuckle duster, and also a medkit. Once you're actually spawned in the map, you will find that you are now playing effectively a battle royale where you have to find and pick up weapons and items in the various compounds, usually on top of blue boxes. You will also notice in the top left hand corner there is a number 450. Once the game starts, this will start counting down immediately. These are the number of points that are available for you to win if you get the wellspring, which is the goal of this game mode. However, the longer it takes, the less points you get. Not to mention, people can also take the wellspring off you by killing you. To activate the wellspring, you need to close rifts, which are basically the same as clues in the other game mode. You need to find 4 of them to activate the wellspring. Once it has been activated by a player, everyone on the map will be alerted to their general location, and then it is a fight against time to grab the wellspring off them, or indeed die trying. The only way to survive this mode is by holding the wellspring when the points run out, or when everybody else is dead on the map. If you are the lucky survivor, and yes, there can only be one, the hunter will be added to the sole survivor pool, and you can then use them in the bounty hunt mode. They will retain any items or weapons you picked up, as well as any experience and traits that they gained in the game. As a new player, this can be a great way to try out different types of weapons, as there will be plenty on the map. However, one disadvantage to this game mode is although it affects your MMR when you die or kill someone, there is no MMR balancing for the game mode itself, so you can be placed against people at a much higher level than you. Soul Survivor also has a version of Darksight, but it's actually reversed. The players without the Wellspring are able to see the Wellspring player once they get close enough to their compound as an orange blob that jumps around. The closer they get to the Wellspring player, the less the orange blob moves. And unlike Bounty Hunt mode, it is also unlimited in its uses. One thing that I will note about both game modes is that you have a limited amount of ammo on your person. However, there is more available around the map. There are ammo crates and special ammo crates, and there are also individual packets of ammunition based on size. A good place to find these are supply points which are marked on the map. Here you will find 3 standard ammo boxes, a special ammo box, a toolbox, and 3 medkits. Just remember, everybody else will also want ammo from these locations. Let's move on now to something else that's fairly important, and that is progression. The first thing I want to talk about are bloodline ranks, because it will have relevance for the next few sections, especially for new players. When you play the game, you will play as a hunter, and this hunter will independently level up as you play to a maximum of 50, if it survives that long of course. But you yourself also rank up from 1 to 100. Ranking up gives you rewards, be that in-game currency, hunt dollars, or indeed a weapon or item unlock. Once you unlock the base item or weapon of a set, you can then use these items or weapons to gain experience in them and unlock either different variants or a new type of item. For details on what you need to do to unlock something, or how you are progressing, you can check in the arsenal, which displays every item or weapon in the game, but we won't go into that too much just now. Once you reach rank 100, you will have the option to prestige. Sadly, the rewards for this are honestly not great right now, although they have talked about a possible rework of the system at some point. If you do it, you lose all your hunt dollars and everything else resets, so you no longer have the weapons or items you unlocked, which I never felt was really worth it myself, so I never bothered doing that. Obviously, this is important for new players because when you first start out, you won't have access to that many weapons or indeed that many items. Don't get me wrong, you have more than enough to be getting on with, and you can pick up anything off the floor in-game and keep it. Rank 10 is also a very important milestone for new players. Until the end of rank 10, none of your hunters can die permanently, and when they die in-game, they will keep all of their equipment. Once you hit rank 11 though, the fun is over and your hunters can permanently die just like everybody else's. I want to stress here it is really important to learn to accept your hunters will die. I think it can be quite a shock after the first 10 ranks to suddenly lose a hunter, but it's just part of the game. Everyone loses hunters, even the top players. The good news is every time you play a game, win or lose, you get the option to roll a free hunter who will come with a weapon and some basic equipment, so you are never left without a hunter. And this leads us very nicely into hunters and recruitment. So when you first start playing, you will have 5 hunter slots, and this will allow you to recruit up to 5 hunters at once. You can unlock more slots either by paying blood bonds, the purchasable currency, though you can earn this in-game as well, but they keep reducing the ability to make this in-game. There is also the chance you can get a hunter slot from a dark tribute, and again I will explain this in a later section, though I've not had one myself in a very long time, it is quite rare. Hunters who have leveled up to 25 can also be retired if you wish to give your bloodline XP an extra little boost and raise your rank faster, and this is often what people do to reach rank 100. On the first recruitment screen, you can get your free hunter by doing a free hunter reshuffle, or you can purchase tier 2 or tier 3 hunters as they become available on this page. They cost money, but they come with a slightly better skin and more items and traits. And you'll note, generally speaking, the price is comparable to the items that they have. On the next tab, you can choose your Soul Survivor Hunters, assuming you've managed to survive with the Wellspring. I will take this opportunity to note you can only have a maximum of 4 on this screen. If you win the Wellspring, again after that the oldest one will be knocked off and the new one will be added, so it's well worth just adding these to your active pool of bounty hunters when you get chance. The last tab are the legendary hunters. These cost 200 hunt dollars to recruit once they are unlocked and will give you 3 random traits, but you don't get any items with them. All of these hunters need unlocking. Some of them are purchasable with the in-game currency Blood Bond. Some of them come as external DLC which you buy on Steam or the Crytek store. Some are event rewards or questline rewards, and some are Twitch drops. I guess I should also note here that some of them have obviously come and gone and therefore would not be unlockable in the future unless Crytek re-released them for an event. Okay, so we're talking about skins. Do they make a difference, I hear you ask? The simple answer is yes. Skins with darker clothes have an advantage on night maps and stand out less in the shadows, etc, etc. And this is one of the reasons the higher tier hunters cost more when you look at the tier 2 and tier 3 ones. When it comes to the legendary hunters, some are just fun designs and are picked for this reason. Others certainly have benefits again due to dark clothing or blending in with the background more. The reptilian here is a very good example of this. Okay, this is turning into a long video. Let's have a quick breather. So what's left to talk about? First we'll talk about currency, then traits, then the equipment, then the Dark Tribute, and finally we'll have a quick go through the different mobs in the game. So the game has 2 types of currency: hunt dollars, which pay for hunters, items and weapons, and these are easily obtainable and it's fairly hard to run out unless you buy the most expensive weapons constantly and then die constantly. You get plenty for simply collecting clues or rifts on the maps. Mix this with getting some free hunters or playing Sole Survivor and you can build up quite a little nest egg pretty fast. Should you also manage to kill players and loot their bodies, kill the bounty and leave with the token, you will also find the hunt dollars ramp up pretty quickly. Saddlebags around the map also have a chance of dropping hunt dollars. Blood bonds are slightly different. These are a purchasable currency which Crytek have gradually made harder and harder to gain by simply playing the game. For example, in the old tutorial you got 250 simply for finishing it. Now you don't seem to get any. Blood bonds are used mainly for purchasing skins for weapons or legendary hunters within the game. They also are used for purchasing the battle pass when the events come round, or things like additional hunter slots. The truth is you can play the game without ever needing any blood bonds if you aren't bothered about skins or needing extra character slots, etc. And even without them you can get some skins, as some are gained via Twitch drops, completing quests, or are included with other DLC you may purchase outside of the game because you really like the look of a skin. Both currencies can also be found in little bags or cash registers around the map, though I will note the blood bond ones are very rare. So one of the things we've mentioned a couple of times through this guide are traits, but we've not really talked about them in any more detail. They give your characters additional passive abilities or sometimes active abilities depending on which one it is. How exactly do you get these traits? Well, if you're playing Sole Survivor mode, you get a trait every time you close a rift. You can also find them in both game modes as trait charms on the floor. Other than that, the more normal way to get them is to purchase them with upgrade points which your hunters get as they level up. They can also be found randomly in envelopes on walls when you are playing on the game map. Traits allow you to tailor your hunters to be more efficient with specific weapons, give bonuses to things like stamina or healing, amongst other things. I won't go into them all here as that's a video in itself, but I will say Doctor is a very handy one, which is why it's also quite expensive. The truth is you will learn to take the ones that aid your particular playstyle, and you can remove them later and get some of their points back. Upgrade points are also used to buy back missing health chunks that you lose in game via dying and being revived, or ones that get burnt off. The other way to do this is to banish a bounty target in the game. Okay, moving on to equipment, and this includes weapons, tools and consumables. Let's start with the big one, weapons. As a new player, you start with a decent selection of weapons, including one of the best shotguns in the game, the Romero 77. Not to mention you can pick up weapons in the game off the ground or off dead hunters and use them regardless of whether you've unlocked them or not. Ranged weapons come in 5 varieties, mainly designated by ammo type. Compact ammo is small and low damage. Medium ammo is somewhere in the middle. Long ammo hits hard and has the best range to damage drop off. Then there are obviously shotguns, and finally the special ammo type weapons, which includes things like crossbows, bows, and the bomb lance. Where it gets a little bit confusing is within all of these ammo types there are subclasses of special ammo available, such as incendiary ammo, explosive ammo, poison rounds, full metal jacket, amongst various others, but again we're not going to go into this any further here, but you get the idea. Now I will add here that while some pros will certainly point out there is usually a long ammo meta to the game, the truth is you can use any weapon and generally perform well in the right situation, and you will find there are weapons you enjoy over others. Some people really love the bow, for example, and I quite like the crossbow. Though admittedly once you hit the 5 and 6 star levels you will tend to find more people running long ammo weapons. Next up, let's talk about tools. These are items generally with multiple uses, or your melee weapon. So for example, your knife, your medkit, your placeable traps, choke bombs, which are a form of smoke bomb, throwing knives, flares, and other such items. Following a successful extraction, aka you survive the game, these restock in full even if you ran out of them during the game. And finally, there are consumables, which are a little bit different from the tools. These are single-use items such as explosives, health shots, stamina shots, and stalker beetles amongst other things. Once you use them, they are gone and they do not get replaced at the end of a round, though you are likely to find more of these around the map and generally can loot them off dead players. These consumables can actually completely turn around a fight, so don't be afraid to use them. If you're dead, you've lost them anyway. They are even extremely useful for simply flushing people out of cover or making them move. I will just quickly mention the arsenal again. All equipment can be viewed here, and as you unlock base items via ranking up, you can see here how you unlock other variations or special ammo types for weapons, etc. These usually require experience or damage to be done using the individual items or weapons. Next, a quick note about Dark Tribute. I'll quickly mention this as it's not the most important thing in the world, but it's a nice bonus. Each day that you play the game, you earn experience, and you have the option to give Dark Tribute via the top right hand button. It's easy to forget it's there, but it will light up white when you have enough points to make a tribute. You can make up to 4 tributes per day and gain a random reward for each. Often hunt dollars, weapons or items, sometimes blood bonds, and on a very rare occasion a hunter slot. Okay, the last thing I want to run through very quickly are the standard mobs in the game. I'm not going to talk about the bosses in this video, simply because there's a lot to talk about there, and that will be its own individual video if I do it. The standard mobs are split into 3 categories: infected, marked, and packs. Infected are basically the standard grunts or zombies, and there are a few different varieties. They can either have no weapons at all, a cleaver that makes you bleed, flaming torches to make you burn. Oh, and do note these torches also keep burning on the ground, so be careful around barrels. Or they can be termed more special grunts, lantern grunts, which smash you with a lantern and set you on fire, killing themselves in the process. Pistol grunts, while they have a pistol they don't actually shoot you, but it will set off when they hit you, giving away your position with a gunshot. There is the doctor grunt. These guys have a poison blade, but they also drop a handy medkit when killed. There is also the miner grunt, and these have a head torch that explodes in flames if you hit them in the head. So if you're going to stab these guys, do it in the chest. Then there are the marked mobs. These are the armoured, which we will have seen in the tutorial, and kind of self-explanatory, though watch out for the ones covered in barbed wire, they will make you bleed. There are hives, and I call these the bee ladies, basically a person who hosts a load of bees that they send out to attack you and poison you when they see you. Next up you have the immolators. These are the very fast moving, angry sounding, burning guys. If you pierce them with anything sharp or a bullet, they will explode into a flame ball and become even angrier. It's best to use blunt weapons on them, such as a knuckle duster. Finally, you have the meatheads. These are the massive, lumbering, bloated, blind creatures with no head that hits like a truck and takes a lot of damage. They are surrounded by leeches, and these act as their eyes. They will try and poison you, which makes you visible for longer, for lack of a better term, to the meathead. I should note that any poison will make you visible to them. So if someone shoots you with a poisoned round and you're stood next to one of these or near them, they will come after you. Next up, you have the pack mobs, and these are the hellhounds, which are for me the most annoying mob. They maul their target and make them bleed, and they are often in packs, so multiple hit you at once. Headshots work well, but be warned, some of them have a metal mask to stop that being effective. And finally, there are water devils. These are a swarm of worm-like creatures or leeches that live in water. They move very fast and cause significant bleeding and damage if they catch you. Okay, so we've kind of covered all of the basics and given a lot of general information of the game at this point, and I don't want to go any further. There's an endless amount of information I could give you, but I think that's enough to get started with, and I think we then move on to other videos focusing more on individual aspects. So I'm going to stop here and start thinking about what other guides would be useful and what kinds of tips and tricks videos I can make. Obviously, if you have any suggestions, please do make them down below in the comments, and if it's possible I can do something with it, I will add it to the list. Regardless of anything else, I hope this has been helpful for someone. I really do enjoy making these guides and helping new players out in various games. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do hit the like button, remember to subscribe, and it doesn't hurt to hit the bell to be notified when other guides or videos go up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.